Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Act 2 review for Arcane. We did one of these before, Act 1. You can go look at it. That one had a non-spoiler section at the front of it. This one is just full spoilers because, you know, there's not much to wax philosophically about with the show. What are you staring at?
What?
What were you looking at?
I don't know. I was just spacing out until it's my turn to talk.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's your turn to talk.
Great.
Mark, how's it going?
Great. I'm excited to talk about Act 2. If you've watched the first one, you wouldn't watch an Act 2 review. Like,
yes.
you're pretty committed probably at this point.
Right.
The only thing I'll say is if you're not committed, it's still really good. I personally found it a small step down in a couple ways, which we'll get into. And the experience in which we watched it was also very different than the first time, which I do think made me like it a little less.
Yeah, I need to get the soundbar working as the takeaway for me, I think.
Well, and your thing's still smoothing.
It's not smoothing.
It is.
No, it's not.
Trust me, dude. I'm a total cinephile. The lips and audio were slightly desynced because it was interpolating frames between them. It was smoothing.
I don't think
you didn't turn it on cinema mode because you didn't want to, because you wanted the bright blue background, and that keeps a couple functions on even if you turn off everything in advanced settings. This is why modern TVs suck, and I hate modern TVs with a fiery effing passion that they turn all these stupid settings on that only optimize for sports basically, and film and animation get screwed. Stop it.
Also, video games kind of optimizes for video
games. It does optimize for video games usually. But actually it can increase input lag.
Yeah, that is
So you
true.
have to put it on game mode because, again, they're just screwing things up.
You know who doesn't make televisions is Alienware. Shout out to Alienware for sponsoring this video. In fact,
Alienware has never screwed me when I'm trying to watch stuff.
Yeah. All right. High praise for Mark Zimmerman. That they could put that on the outside of the box.
It won't screw up your viewing of Arcane.
We are streaming this right now, so if we ever interact with chat, we're going to try to avoid doing that because it's disruptive for people who just come.
But you might see my gaze.
Yeah, Mark is incapable of making a joke and then not looking 10 seconds later to see how Twitch chat reacts to it, to fill him with the pleasure of.
It's just I don't want to look at you. It's like look at anything. I look at myself in your monitor more than I look at you.
Should I just close that?
Oh, anyway.
No. Okay, so I thought after the first act that we would try to come up with more structure, and then off-season happened, and I have no additional structure for this episode, so we're just going to go.
We'll start with positives, I think.
Yeah,
because
I was going to start with negatives because
no. I'm a negative person. So like if I really like something, and it's like an 8 out of 10, I will actually spend more time talking about the negatives because like it's what bugged me, and I'm like, oh, it was so close to being perfect. I wish they did this, and this. Versus like, well, yeah, of course the animation was still great and the sound was still great.
But I'm just worried that if we end on your big rants about the negatives, because I have a couple as well.
No, I think
like
people are going to take positive.
We like the show. It was really good.
Show.
It was great. I think a drop. You said, I think on Twitter, and I agree with this, a bit of a drop since Act 1.
Yeah, and part of it is because I think structurally it's doing different things. Like Act 1 was more or less a complete story in its own right.
Yes, exactly.
And it left you at a point where the time skip that happens makes a lot of sense. It feels really good. It also works with the release schedule that they're going for because they're doing batch releases. So you get this whole nice arc in Act 1, and it ends with the two sisters ripped apart in different worlds. And of course, 5 years or whatever passes, 10 years. I don't know if they ever explicitly said how much time, but
no, I don't think they did.
But anyway, some amount of time passes, and you feel really good with that week off to process everything that just happened.
Yeah, and it's helpful too because you know where they're going, and you know where they're going in this, right? But like, you're seeing characters that do not look like the way we expect characters to look, and so that's what's going to happen in Act 2.
Right, and that cliffhanger. Like, even though I didn't know for sure it was time skip, it was clearly going to be a time skip at some point. Like, that's the time skip right there. And then this time, there's no reason, like, I shouldn't just want to watch episode 7 after episode 6 here. Like, it didn't lead to a natural climax and follow-up. There was a climax, but it just made you go, oh, what happens after that?
Yes. I actually did not have enough time, but I consider rewatching Act 2 yesterday. Because we watched it Saturday night.
Yeah.
And then I just didn't end up having the time. But, like, I think it is better than I currently feel about it, because I think if I went back and rewatched it, I would have a deeper appreciation for what they were doing and where they were going. But I continue to think that Act 2 ends in a like kind of messy way. Like, I don't think like what is it?
I thought we were starting positive. What happened?
What's that? Oh yeah. Okay. Well, we mentioned the differences, and so we can get into that. But that is I think where it is.
Yeah. So the things that I think are still great. The animation is still some of the best animation
Continues
around.
to be great.
Yeah. It has a very unique style. Sound design is still really good. I think musically, if it's up your alley or not, you can debate, because it is very modern music and it is steampunky, but it doesn't feel like
it feels like it fits for the most part. There's
for the
one
most
scene
part.
that we'll talk about. But
we will.
I loved the character building.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is super fascinating to me that Victor is the smallest of the four main characters. I know you say Caitlin that Victor, that Vi and Jinx. It's been a long day. That Vi and Jinx are the main characters, but I personally feel like there are like 5 main characters. And,
there's a bunch.
And Victor, it's funny because he gets the least attention. Even now that like Caitlin's here, he gets the least attention, and yet for me, he continues to be my favorite character in the most.
He definitely steals the show,
which is also funny because he was one of the characters in League of Legends that I cared the least about. I just was not interested in like robot dude. I mean, I know
whoa!
But this is a spoiler thing.
So this is so great because Travis is so anal about spoilers of any kind. He thought that, guess what, guys? Here's a spoiler. Get Jinx plays in the show. At some point, Get Jinx plays in the show. Travis considered that a spoiler.
To be clear, I was at Mark's house before, and there was a thumbnail that showed up, a YouTube suggested video on his TV that said, Jinx listens to Get Jinxed in Arcane. And I'm like, that is a scene that would be very enjoyable to find, just completely brand new, and like, oh, that's a cool revelation. Instead, I just knew that was going to be happening, so the surprise and fun of discovering
there's obviously scales of spoilers, but I'm saying like you find literally everything a spoiler, and you just dropped a massive plot and character spoiler.
I assume everyone that is watching this has played League of Legends.
You gotta move these goalposts some more. Move these goalposts some more.
Do we really think that people don't know that this is... I think you've probably mentioned this stuff in Act 1. Anyway, sorry, we're getting off topic. Other things we liked. Oh, so Victor continues to be amazing, and I think Caitlin, who obviously was barely in Act 1, she's also really... I've really enjoyed her stuff, and I love that they start... I think it's the second episode, episode 5, I guess, with the scene of Caitlin with... God, I forget her name. The former sheriff.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember.
Yeah. Her name, I've known it before. I've seen people talking about it. But I love that they start with that. I think it's really cool, and I think they do a good job. I mean, it's kind of a tale as old as time, is like the noble woman who wants to go to have like a job that is not her station, but I think she's really cool.
It's one of the things that's true with the show is that like it doesn't necessarily start a lot of characters and their arcs in the most revolutionary places.
Yeah.
Like episode 1 enters with scrappy street gang pulling off a heist from the lower city against the upper city. Like that's such a tropey opening. But like from there, the show evolves a lot. And obviously Caitlin's doing a pretty tried and true character arc where it's like, I was born noble and I didn't know the poor people had it so bad and my eyes are being opened. Right. But the beats that they hit along the way still feel really good. And I think that's something I'd say about the show as a whole, beyond the technical components, which I don't think I have many complaints about in terms of visuals or sound or any of that stuff. I overall like the beats that the story is hitting.
Yeah.
I don't have any issue with the plot in a large scale sense and what's happening. And that's why I still think it's really, really, really good. I think basically it continues along the path. I think that while the first act stood on its own, this one heavily depends, I think, a little bit on what happens in Act 3 before you can really judge, because this was a lot of setup. Yeah, a lot of setup, and also I don't know, just a lot of character building, which I enjoyed. Yeah.
I think Mel, I think is her name. I think she is interesting to me. I know obviously there's a lot of speculation. We can talk about speculation on what the theories are maybe at the end, because that's more uplifting than the negatives, and we can kind of end it on as we're looking to Act 3. But I think she's interesting. I just really like a lot of what they were doing, and even just a lot of the visuals. I don't know if we'll put this in the negatives or not, because I want to ask you, what did you think of the sex scene?
I thought it was fine. I don't know. I saw people talking a lot about it, but I didn't see too many outright opinions.
It's obviously something people I don't think expected.
Right. So that's
people were surprised when there were cuss words in Act 1, and then in this we've got Jace going down on Mel. So like
yeah, I mean, but it's literally like her body in frame and his head disappearing out of frame. You know, it's like
I know it is still like there's no overt nudity or anything like that, but like
I wasn't shocked to know that there was a sex scene in this, given that.
What about the execution of it?
Well, I mean, they obviously went for a more artistic style. So this is one of the things I would criticize a little bit.
Are we going into the negatives? Or
no, not quite. I'm just saying, like, they can be very overt sometimes with the point. Like, Jace playing with his little techno-wizardry thing while Jace gets... Victor playing with his techno-wizardry thing while Jace gets laid is already clear enough what's happening. And then to stick another scientist who goes... Hey, Victor, I've never appeared on the show before, and you've never shown any interest...
No, she's in the show previously.
Well, she was, like, in the background and stuff. Yeah. She just randomly is like, hey, Victor, you want to walk home with me? And he's like, no, I must make it clear that I have no interest in women currently. Yeah. And it was like, you didn't need... Like, it was already so apparent. And so that would be one of my only criticisms. Like, sometimes they beat you over the head with, like, the message. Yeah. Because I actually think what they did from then was really cool with how artistic it was about, like, his blood going into the machine to become a part of it, while also heavily implying Jace...
is going into Mel to become a part of her,
giving something up. You know, like it was. I thought that was very well done and like artistically done, and like it's more interesting than watching like two cartoon characters actually like fuck. Like it didn't show as much of that to show like this more artistic idea of, you know, Victor fusing with machine.
It is a little tropey though.
It is tropey, but at least they did it in a visually interesting way. Yeah. To show Victor becoming more in line with Machine and Arcane, whereas Jace becoming more in bed with Piltover politics.
Yeah, yeah. Not just embedded with Piltover politics, but like he's definitely going to be like more on the humanity side.
Yeah, well,
right?
he's more worldly.
Right.
I mean, like, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. So like I thought like the theming with the visuals all worked nicely together. Yeah. I just wish they sometimes held back that extra layer of like, this is what it means that they hit you with sometimes.
I also appreciate, for a while I was really wondering and worried that they might not show what Shimmer is or where it was, because like we knew in Act 1 where like all the hex cores, not the hex core, but the hex tech stuff, the magic cores and all that were coming from, and sort of how Jace discovered it and all that stuff, and like it was really unclear in Act 1 where Shimmer was coming from, and so now we see sort of the backstory with Victor finding that stuff.
And it's
also it's kind of a cool mirror, because Jace obviously as a kid stumbles upon somebody we presume is Rise, while and like the magic that comes from it. Well, obviously Victor stumbles upon Singed with the Shimmer stuff.
Yeah. I think it was also cool seeing like Shimmer refined more to be more of a drug for fun use than like just
kind of like ODing. The evolution. Like, what does this now look like?
They've refined it over time.
I
think some people might have missed that and just been like, why doesn't it make everyone Hulk out before?
Right.
You know, but it's a lot of shows about the evolution of technology and stuff. It brings me to Heimerdinger. Like, they do a good job of setting up personal conflicts quite well. Again, even though they're not revolutionary, but the ageless, immortal creature who doesn't understand human needs and desires on the right time scale is a pretty... It's a well-known trope, but they do it really well with Heimerdinger, and you can't help but sympathize with him when he finally gets yeeted out of the council.
Yes. I think it's true. I mean, still a lot of, like, vagueness around the threat that he understands, right? Like, you just kind of have a couple of these little flashes, but...
It's like, we know that's Brand in the Rune War.
Yeah.
I wish they
would... I mean, I don't know that, but...
Well, yeah, exactly. So then you're like other people who just go, "Oh, something bad happened in the past."
I know that there was obviously some fallout and stuff. Yeah. But, okay. Anything else that we like before we move on to dislikes?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. I mean, overall, before we get into our list of dislikes, which honestly might be longer than our likes, because there's a lot of... Sometimes it's easier to just say like, I like the music.
The animation was really good.
Specific issues.
Yeah. The camera work is sometimes a little excessive for me, but it's still
really?
real.
I like it a lot.
I mean, they make the camera very animated.
Yeah. I mean, they'll stick it on the end of like a pole, like somebody's looking through the thing, and then you see their face back.
I think sometimes it's I'd be happier if they held the shot a couple times and treat it more like a regular camera, because then when you do the crazy stuff, it pops more. But that's like again, like, what am I really critiquing here? It looks really good.
Oh, I think one last thing is I like what they're building for with the Vi and Caitlyn stuff. what the implication, I guess. I don't know if they're going to activate.
You're
all
hot,
those things.
cupcake.
Yeah.
I want to eat your cupcake.
Yes. And I also think I like the Silco Jinx relationship. Like, I think it continues to humanize Silco in an interesting
Yeah,
way.
there was definitely a moment at the beginning where I was like,
Yeah,
"Is this
I know.
father daughter?"
Yeah.
Or, but then I think with the baptism-y scene,
Yeah.
that kind of solidified it as more mentor / father figure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, that was I thought that their interactions were good.
Yeah.
And again it helps build Silco out as somebody who is not just like nefarious villain type. Okay. I wish Imagine Dragons had been in
That's
the
the first thing
background.
you go to.
I mean, I know you've got your big block, your main issue.
Yeah.
But that was my least favorite part in the thing, and I've seen some people say they really like it. I would have liked it as an Easter egg. Put those characters in the background. Be like, oh, if you zoom in, you can see that it's Imagine Dragons playing their song. Like, that is fun. But the fact that they did such a I think it was a scene
takes.
Transition.
They did drum hat hits.
Yes.
They did like people
It was
plucking
just
their
like,
guitar.
just so you don't. It's kind of like what you were talking about earlier with the hitting you over the head. It's like, just so you guys realize this is Imagine Dragons. Look, it's the actor, or not the actor, the singer, and all that stuff. I wish it had just been in the background. I think it would have been a really fun Easter egg or something. If it's like, oh, if you zoom in, you can see that the character. This felt like a contractual agreement to have them be part of it or something.
This felt like, to me, not that, but a big wig at Riot. An executive being like, you have to put it in. And, I'm sure whoever's like writing the script or something being like,
I'm sure there was a lot of tension around it.
And it's the thing, too. I saw some people being like, well, it shouldn't bother you. It's only 30 seconds. Like, first off, you don't get to decide subjectively what knocks someone out of a scene or not.
Yeah.
Like, just because it doesn't bother you doesn't mean that there's a non-negligible portion of people who didn't like seeing it because it reminded them your suspension of disbelief breaks when you go, oh, that's the band. And not is it just the band, but they show it so bluntly that you're like, I can't even pretend I didn't see that.
Well, and Twitch chat right now, Flame says Get Jinx also broke the fourth wall, but I think that's a good example of a place where it felt good.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, you can go, oh, that's the song that exists somewhere else in the universe, and like, who would have recorded it in world there or something? But like, at least it's not like so in your face that like it kills the
it's
moment.
not the point of the scene. I think.
She's listening to music while working. At no point does it go, get jinxed on her iPad, sponsored by Nokia, or whatever. Like, there's no moment like that.
Right. Yes.
So there's degrees. Like, what knocks someone out? Like, the jinx thing might have knocked someone else out. That's okay. I mean, a lot of Easter eggs can do that very easily.
Okay, get to your big rant that I know you're going to go into.
So this was my complaint in Act 1, and it continues to be my complaint in Act 2, which is that there is so little in-world time progressing on screen that I have a very hard time believing that this is all happening in 24/36-hour windows. And it really makes the character moments, which beat-wise, from a writing perspective, the character beats make sense. But they haven't, like, earned it in an in-world time perspective. In Game of Thrones, like, Ned Stark and Robb might, or Baratheon might say something, and then like by the next time you see them on screen, like weeks have passed.
Right.
In a single day and a half or day,
it's like 36 hours.
It's probably around 36 hours, maybe 2. I'd have to like go back and rewatch to make sure I get it right.
Yeah.
But no matter what, this is still pretty crunched to go from like trying to invent something, showing it to Heimerdinger, giving a speech, changing his mind not to show it, get promoted to the council, somehow goes through manifest logs to find inconsistencies to order that they stop doing this, which somehow spreads throughout the entire city. They get pissed off. He has to have a meeting with Mel, who's like, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. Come be corrupt. Jace sells his morality to become a corrupt politician. Then he kind of regrets it. Then he hooks up with Mel. Then he goes to Jace, who's dying, or excuse me, Victor, who's dying. He kind of regrets that. During this time, somehow Caitlyn went to an island prison, realized she needed orders to get someone set free, goes back to Jace, gets those orders, goes back to the prison, all in the same time.
Well, I think she didn't. I think she just falsified his signature or whatever.
They didn't make that clear.
Yeah, it's not.
I don't even know if that's true.
Well, whenever the sheriff was like,
the guy goes, since when is he a counselor? And she's like, today.
Yeah. But then later on, he's like, by the way, did you know that she got this prisoner out? And he's like, yes, I totally did. That was how I read that.
I read that as him just being like, he doesn't really know what Caitlyn's doing.
It's not clear, for sure.
Yeah. Anyways, the point is, after that, he still has to go back to Victor, do some more experimentation, get in an argument, and then get Heimerdinger kicked out while also still talking with the police chief guy.
Yeah.
And he's like doing so much. Like, I'm like, just make this a week long. There's literally, I don't think there's a single point in this sequence between him, Kate, and Vi, anything going on in the plot that necessitates it to take place in 2 days, other than for two really not that great jokes. The two jokes are like, it's his first day, and then the other one's like, it's his second day. And I could pretend
you could have still had that. Like,
you could be like, it's his first week, but like they just made these jokes, and that I could ignore how much time had passed if they didn't say it to me that like it's been 2 days. And I'm like, how did he do all that in 2 days? And like his character motivations are ping-ponging all over the place. You know, Caitlin and Vi are supposed to be like developing feelings towards each other in a 24-hour window.
Yeah.
You know, like it would have been much more impactful if they spent a week searching for Jinx and following up on leads and like actually spending this time together. So when they start having an emotional connection, it's not like some prisoner she just let out 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
You have a good heart. You've known me for like 16 hours.
Yeah.
And we went to a brothel and you like randomly like started. We just had to show that you were interested in women, very bluntly again, by showing you flirting. You know, like there's a lot of that kind of stuff that it just knocks me out again about my suspension of disbelief. I admit I have weak suspension of disbelief, but like I just can't believe characters are having their motivations and feelings and desires change so rapidly.
I mean, similarly, I feel really weird about Vi, who has been in prison for 5 years, and that's apparently the only thing she has known. And yet she comes out and you kind of immediately feel like she's just like back to being a normal human being. She somehow got all these tattoos while she was in prison. She like has been abused this whole time, and yet again, just like she doesn't seem to have any issues. She's just sort of like doing her own thing. I mean, I know she's got like her biggest grief is with Caitlin because her parents died to enforcers, not necessarily because she's been like traumatized by the system.
Yeah.
I know there's a little bit of that whenever she's in the prison and she's like doubtful of this stuff, but like it felt a little surprising to me that they just gunned so quickly with that stuff. So I agree with that.
Yeah, and on a pacing, like the narrative beat pacing, I don't complain quite as much as.
Yeah, like, it feels like things are flowing okay.
Yeah, I don't want. It's obviously that they have a limited time. They have to get through these things. This is one of the corners they're cutting a little bit, but I don't see why they couldn't have just not made those two jokes about how quickly Jace was doing things, which just makes me go, wait, yeah, how is he? How did he read a whole shipping manifest?
Or even if there was just a line where Jace is like, you know, like Victor's like, Jace goes like, it's been 3 days, have you made any progress or something? And Victor's like, oh yeah, like there's a way to just throw in a time, like
it makes the stakes harder to believe, where Jace or Victor gets I keep messing this up. Victor gets his diagnosis, and then he's like, I feel my body eroding, this is serious, guys. And it's like, you didn't even you weren't even sure about this like a day ago, and then they're like, we have to solve these equations right now. And it's like there's no struggle with it not working. It's been like a day.
Yeah.
A lot of those things kind of make me a little like, eh.
So along the Vi stuff a little bit for me, and I don't know if you felt this way, but I've been a little disappointed in how they've handled Heimerdinger as a character. I like him. I feel sympathetic for him, and he obviously has a lot of personality when he's on screen, but I think he's supposed to be this amazing inventor. He's supposed to be this guy that's been around forever. He's like in charge of the academy, like he's a counselor, he's all this stuff, but we only ever see him showing up to be to pour cold water on everything. And I think that is a little disappointing for me, because like Riot used to talk a lot, they used to use this word, I don't know if they still do, it was like a Riot term, like aspirational, like all champions have to be aspirational as they're designing them. And like I think Heimerdinger should feel more like aspirational or cool in the show, and like even if in Act 1 or Act 2 he had helped with some sort of breakthrough, or like maybe he could have like helped build the hex core and then realized once it starts moving like what it is and being like, we have to fucking cancel this thing.
Yeah.
Like show me Heimerdinger doing something impressive rather than just like coming around and being like the old fuddy-duddy. And I understand that there's a reason he's the old fuddy-duddy, but like it just, for me, I wish he had done cool stuff, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like there's a chance in Act 3 we'll get that. And that's what I'm holding out for the Heimerdinger arc.
Yeah.
It's still weird because like his in-game character is like shooting rockets and turrets and stuff, and I'm like,
I mean, I think it's hard. He can't be as memey as he is in the game, so I get
but my point is just that like I wonder what he's gonna do in the show, because he, like you said, he hasn't done anything proactive yet. He just shows up, says you shouldn't do this, but I love you, and then goes on with his day. And like
sucks you're dying, Victor, but don't worry, you know.
Smart suitest burn brightest, and I stand on your corpses with my lifelong Jesus. But I know what you're saying, and I agree. I feel a little. I really like him. He still tugs on my heartstrings, but I do wish they would make him do something.
Yeah, maybe in Act 3 he's going to have some. He'll be cackling and like having a bunch of turrets shooting at Silco or something like that. Yeah. You remove me from the council, I'll remove your head.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I'm a little disappointed with like Silco. I don't think was thrown out as easily as well. Like I did like his interactions with Jinx, but like I think he had a much cooler. He seemed like a much cooler character in Act 1. I know part of it is like you're supposed to see him like losing control because Jinx is like coming in and taking over, but it's like he didn't seem as neat to me in this. As it. I don't know if you have anything else, but I want to talk about the ending here.
No, I feel like for the most part, I still really liked it. I think a lot more stuff is getting set up, so I didn't feel like I got the payoffs.
Yeah.
And the one payoff you kind of get is like the Jinx Vi reunion.
Yeah.
And while it has been a long time, 10 years, whatever it is, in World, they didn't feel like they had to struggle that long. And as a viewer, I didn't feel like they were apart that long. So their reunion didn't like hit me in the feels like their separation did in the first thing.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Act 1 they stick the landing. I think that the landing or the ending on this stuff was a little messy. Like Silco raging, like even just that scene where they're cutting between like Silco raging out when the thing fell. That felt kind of random to me and a little out of character. Like I understand he's frustrated because he's starting to lose control, but I don't feel like they did enough to like build to that moment for him.
Yeah.
And he's just like kicking bodies and stuff. It just felt
I know
weird. Like why is he not like running off to go do something, you know? Like I don't understand. And then like it felt a little rushed. Even like the sequence at the end felt a little rushed. And maybe it's supposed to be like, oh, Act 1 ending parallels Act 2 ending with Vi getting abducted. But I didn't feel that way. I was just like, why
that felt like they just did the same ending again.
I'm like, why? Like, cool, now we have to figure out what happened to Vi because she got abducted again. Like, I'm like...
The double abduction thing was a little lame. I also feel like for most people in the show, they know who play the game, know who the Firelighter guy is.
Yeah.
And I feel like that could have been a good reveal to end on, but you don't know what his goals are because we don't really know what the Firelighters are doing. I feel like I know. But I would have liked like one more scene where we know who abducted Vi and we know who it is, and you know.
Yeah.
But right now you're just kind of like, oh, okay.
Okay, speculation for this is going to include League of Legends spoilers and stuff like that, so speculation for the final act. We can do that really quickly. Because I know everybody's going to go, free agency opens in 8 minutes as we record this.
So
Echo is the leader of the Firelighters.
Firelighters, Echo, clearly the watch that he looks at, the hoverboard that his gang uses, the wrench that he uses, like he picked up the blue thing. He's clearly going to use that to make his powers, which I won't spoil if people don't know what that is yet. I think the Noxian
a lot of people are speculating that.
I feel like that's more set up for season 2 than something that's going to really pay off hard.
Yeah.
Like I don't think Noxus is going to invade, which I saw people like,
I saw there's a lot of speculation where I'm like, I missed Mel painting the
Noxus
thing. Noxus cat.
I don't know what the Noxus capital looks like, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But I saw that too.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. And I don't think that she's LeBlanc, which I know is like a fan
I don't think
theory.
Swain's going to show up because
like,
there's
I think
crows.
people just don't have like. People need to remember how much has happened in Act 1 and Act 2, and while it's a lot, it is also kind of a little.
It's also internal to a single story, whereas like Noxus does not need to exist in anything other than being another country that people are talking about.
I am a little worried that this is got... So, a spoiler for Game of Thrones, I guess. Everyone, feel free to skip ahead by like a minute or something.
No one cares. That show sucks.
It reminds me a little bit of... Whenever the Night King or whatever, he was coming in to finally invade, and there were like 3 or 4 episodes left. I remember telling people like, this show ending is going to probably not be great because like, how can you wrap up all this stuff in this time?
That's how I feel. I thought that there was going to be a boil over between Undercity and Piltover.
Yeah,
and it hasn't happened yet. And I'm like, am I just reading everything about this show wrong? Right. About like the arcane powers at the top side and the shimmer powers on the bot side, like. or is that just not going to happen?
Yeah, there's so many things. Like Victor has to transform, Arcane or Jace has to get his hammer. Like you have to see like whatever Mel's been building, like sort of her plans unveiled or at least insinuated. Like you have to figure out what's like. There is a like in some ways I don't think a lot happened in Act 2. Act 2 was mostly characters dealing with their own stuff and like figuring out.
I feel like a lot of
their own shit.
Important character beats happened. You can't gloss over these because I feel like it makes the show feel worse if you hit the plot points but not the character points.
Right.
Agreed.
But so the plot, I feel like,
still
is stalled,
feels like
kind
it's
of.
it's one of those weird things where like a lot happened, but also like it didn't get to where you think it needs to be for the last 3 episodes.
Right, exactly. Like they spent a lot of time like building up like Vi and Caitlyn hanging out in the Undercity and stuff like that. Where without like the big moment is the thing that happens at the end, but like I don't know. So I'm a little worried. Like that Act 3, they're going to be like, haha, Season 2 cliffhanger or something. That would feel really bad. I don't think they will because it seems as though this thing is going to be all self-contained. But I also don't know how they're going to be able to get through everything that has to happen. So maybe it'll just be sick.
I feel like maybe there's something going on with the plot that I like am not seeing. Like it's not going to be a full boil over between the two. But like with Silco being like my dream of Zon in the first act, I'm like, this is supposed to be a rebellion story, right? And there's not rebelling right now.
Yeah.
One of the speculations I did like that I thought was really cool was that they're going to have a 5v5 fight. Piltover versus On. When someone said it, I was like, wait, this is perfect. No, Caitlyn versus Jinx has 80 carries.
Yeah.
You have mid laners, Echo versus Victor. You have like... there's 10 champions or potentially more with Singed in there. Heimerdinger, like they were like maybe Mel's a new support. Who knows?
I worry that's going to be an Imagine Dragons moment for me if they do like a face off in the middle of a street between 5 and 5.
Bro, it's called the lanes. It's called the lanes.
No.
Yes.
Oh
no! I mean, like,
if they do that, they have to execute on it perfectly.
I feel like you undersell what it is, and it's something that more you conceptually realize that
like,
there's 5 on this side, 5.
Your face when you realize it was a League of Legends battle.
Yeah, like okay, there's 5 on this side, 5 on that side, but don't have a thing where they all square off one against each other kind of thing.
Yeah.
Warwick is potential.
I can't imagine Warwick is actually going to show up. I know they showed like the vault or something that he's supposed to be in, and Singed. Like there's a thing where they're like, oh, is he sitting in that tube or whatever? But
the tube thing was the thing making Shimmer.
I know, but there's
another one.
There's a casket looking type thing on the wall that somebody had a screenshot of. But
yeah, I mean, there's a chance Vander comes back. I feel like that has space, or at least like makes sense within the narrative. Is that he's the monster, and like Jinx and Vi have to come to terms with their father figure not being who he was anymore, and they have to.
But again,
him.
Like so much shit.
Right, like that's just another
episodes.
thing you have to develop, and so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's any other speculation. Twitch chat, anything we are
the enforcers and the gangs as creeps would be pretty awesome as a 5v5 league game.
Somebody just said Aurelian Soul. Can we talk about how this show has some of the cleanest fight choreography? I like the fight choreography a lot. I like the animation around the fights a lot. I think it's super cool.
I feel like it's really good. It's really well done, but I don't feel like it's spinning my head around.
Yeah.
A good example of my favorite fight choreography and animation would be, this is really deep cut for people, but Gon versus Ahsoka in the tournament arc. There's this really cool plot element, and this is a bit of a spoiler, but like you're not sure if one of the fighters wants to kill the other fighter. Yeah. And at one point he has a chance, he has like these sharp nails. He can like jab into the guy's side, and he chooses not to do it, and he does like a palm hit instead. And it's like, oh, that's really clever narrative telling that like he's not ready to kill this guy. He's like fucking with him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this stuff is all good, you know, but it's not like, oh shit, this is like insane storytelling as well as like Matrix level of fight choreography or Ip Man or like those kinds of things.
I feel really bad for Vi in the show. Because like she meets up and she's like Jinx, and then there's that scene where she realizes how fucking far gone Jinx is, and Caitlyn is like, Jinx is your sister, like, oh god.
I mean, so that's some of the stuff that is really cool, like the effects that show Jinx's insanity and all that is all really well done.
And it's so cool that they were able to pull that from, like, listen, I've been covering League of Legends stuff for a while. Riot they are not a Marvel where like 10 years ago they're like, here's Jinx's design and we're going to use this later to show how she's...
Yeah,
So, like, what is really cool, I like, is that they are adapting existing elements into the show in very clever ways.
Yeah, like, why does Jinx have so much random weaponry in the game?
Yeah,
She
yeah.
kind of tinkers herself.
Right.
You know, like, I think there's a lot of stuff that they've done a good job of making feel natural when
Yeah.
they probably had to really sit down and be like, what does all this mean?
Yeah. But I am, like, hardcore Team Victor now. Definitely my favorite character. I'm all on board for the glorious evolution. Yeah. I'm. That's
The
my
Machine
takeaway for
Herald.
next-
Yeah, dude, I can't wait.
I went.
They showed
from,
his little laser cannon
yes,
arm.
yes. I know. I went from being a whatever person when it came to Victor to now just very excited. So that's what I'm excited for in just a short time. All right, Mark. Anything you want to shout out?
Shout out Genshin Impact, our Genshin Impact channel.
TGI Genshin. Go check it out. Thanks, everyone. We'll be doing another one of these in a week after everything is gone. We did a video on the channel. It's a new contributor, a new TGI contributor, Nicole, ex-Skyella. She did a video about all the Arcane stuff you can get for free in the game. So different games in League and TFT and Valorant and all that stuff. So go check it out. It's on the channel. And we'll see you next week for Act 3 review. Holiday season is almost here, which means that there's great shopping opportunities over at Alienware. That's right. They've got their new R13 and R14s that are out. And guess what? I just want to ask you that whenever Black Friday comes up or Cyber Monday or Deals Tuesday or awesome Wednesday, whatever, I don't know, that you check out alienware.com/Travis and then click over on the banner at the top to head to their Black Friday deal, their holiday deals, because like maybe you're going to purchase something and this would be a great way for you to support the channel, is purchase something and then you like tweet at them and let them know you did it because of me, and then I feel good about myself and I can finally tell my family that they can be proud